Hello, Mr. Stephen. This is The Health Show. Everybody, this is episode 29th of The Health Show, and we've come so far. Today, I have a very esteemed guest. I have a guest who who's just amazing, who's a business growth consultant. He has an enormous experience under his belt. He has a lot to share today, and I am so humbled to have him today. Mr. Stephen, how are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic, and the feeling is mutual. I'm humbled to be on your program. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen. So let's begin. First of all, tell me about yourself. Tell me who is Mr. Stephen. What's your story? What's your inspiration? What are you all about?
Okay, so I reside in the UK. I've been involved primarily in multi-channel retail for the last 25 years. Part of that journey has been involved in me growing and actually selling a number of my own businesses along the way. And as a result, I've ended up helping initially some colleagues and some friends, which has grown into a worldwide consultancy business around growth and transformation. I've also, along that journey, built and sold a number of technology businesses, not because I'm a technology guy, but I'm a guy that focuses on business problems, particularly from a brand and growth perspective. So I built and been involved in creating $1 billion plus online retail business. I've been involved in creating a number of other $1 billion sized tech related businesses, and I continually work within the space of growth and transformation for businesses that effectively have either stopped growing for some reason or are in a period of decline. And I have a tried and tested formula and approach that really helps to deliver on that growth. So as it says on my LinkedIn profile, I don't just talk about growth, I actually guarantee to deliver it. So I'm quite passionate about those things. I'm a guy that really gets awake in the morning based on solving problems that I really do understand and try and find those solutions for not just myself, but obviously for other organisations in and around the UK, but also on an international basis. So quite a lot of fun, quite busy at times, and occasionally I get invited onto really cool programs like the Health Show, and I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Stephen. It's an honor to have you here as well. I want to ask, what is your inspiration and how do you stay consistent at what you do?
I don't think it's consistency is probably comes second to persistency. So once I identify an opportunity for growth, and more often than not, that comes as a result of solving or identifying problems and solutions, then it's a question of being persistent around what you really truly believe, where you are solving a problem for other people. And what I've learned over the years is that if you're solving somebody else's problems, by and large, it helps to solve yours. So most businesses that I come into contact with have been very focused on identifying needs in the marketplace, and they've done really, really well. But they get to a point where, for some reason, they either are not growing or the business is stagnating, and they can't quite understand what's causing that. And more often than not, it's because they've lost the why. And what I mean by lost their why is that at one stage they understood why people chose their business over somebody else's, and today they've probably lost sight of what that is. So I sort of like to go in and reset quite a bit of that stuff. But what really sort of drives the consistency is that persistence, but actually backed up by quite a lot of research and quite a lot of knowledge. And in order to gain that over the years, I've learned a lot of ways not to do things. So there's lots of people and organisations out there that would be quite happy to tell you the sort of things that maybe you should be doing, but there's very few that's actually had the sort of, excuse the phrase, a coalface experience and expertise to also let you have a look at the sort of things that maybe you shouldn't be doing. And that will save you time, resource, finances, and various other things. So I'm quite focused on that. As I say, I do have a sort of tried and tested program and formula that seems to work. Everybody that I work with comes out of that with significant growth opportunities, and I think that drives the passion. I like to go into a business or an organisation that is quite has lost its way a little bit, and I leave them with a much clearer picture.
Wow, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. My next question is about failures. So I want to ask you, what is your life's biggest failure and what did you learn out of it?
My life's biggest failure is that I prioritised business and work over family in my early days. And at the time, and most people hopefully can relate to this, you're out there trying to build a career, you're trying to look after your family, and the younger you are, you believe that it's all about trying to put as much in as you possibly can. And at times that's correct, but it's about getting that balance right. And I don't think I really appreciated that until I got into my early 40s. And so my biggest sort of, not regret as such, because I've got some great kids, I've got a great family. But I remember somebody quoting not too long ago when they did some statistics about people who were about to pass on to another world, their life's regrets. And by and large, it wasn't money, it wasn't possessions. It actually ended up they regret not spending more time with their loved ones. So I balanced that and corrected that, and I now spend a lot more time talking to, getting involved with, supporting, and spending a lot more time certainly with my wife and my children and other people, family-wise. But also I've learned from that not all relationships are based on you taking something. You have to give something back. So I also, that's helped me in the business life. So if your approach is always about what you can get out of another individual, then you're not really going to be very sustainable in the business world.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Stephen. And so the next question is about self awareness. In your opinion, how can somebody be more self aware?
Wow, I think this is a fantastic question. So again, just to coin a phrase, apparently self-awareness and ego are very poor bedmates. They don't really go hand in hand. So if you've got a fairly big ego and you could be classed as narcissistic, chances are that you will never be self-aware, and that's something that you have to sort of take a look at and introspectively see whether or not you can actually alter your approach to how you deal externally with people, around how you've internalized your own views and your own approach to life. But I would definitely say that the best way to deal with self-awareness is to do one of the things that actually my wife taught me many years ago, which is before you open your mouth, before you type something, just stop and think and pause, and how would that make you feel? Most of us tend to react emotionally but think logically, and I think that one of the best ways to help you become self-aware is to be able to connect the two. If you can connect the heart with the head, then I think that you'll become more aware of the type of person that not only you are, but also the impact you're having on others around you. And I just think I always have the thought in mind, which is if something initially makes me irritable or annoyed, then I would always pause for a period of time to reflect on that and actually think, why is that person making me feel this way? Now, it could be that they are under a lot of strain, that they could be under a lot of pressure. It could be that they're just purely just not self-aware themselves. So they're not aware of the negativity that perhaps they're passing on. And conversely, the same thing goes for when you're feeling really happy. And I've trained myself time after time now to try and sort of bring forward more positive thoughts. And I don't mean naive positive thoughts and dismiss reality of things that are going on that are uncomfortable, but to just try and find more reasons to be positive about something. And what I found is if you go back to somebody who's maybe sent you some negativity in whatever form that might be, verbally, or they've sent you an email, and go back to them with some degree of empathy. Actually, what tends to happen is you turn the conversation around pretty quickly. It's a bit like if you go into a store to complain about a product, and if you go in very angry, then chances are you're going to receive that anger back, because nobody's going to be able to calm you down. If you go in and having thoughts about why your argument for this particular complaint is legitimate, and handle it in a calm way, and actually also say, things like, well, I understand that maybe, this doesn't happen all the time, and various other things. Just think through the other person's position. 9 times out of 10, what tends to happen is what comes back to you is positivity, not negativity. And I think that we all thrive on positive energy. It makes us feel good. When you have your friends with you and you're enjoying yourself, it's a great feeling. And you want to just try and bring more of that into your life. And I'm a great believer that you draw to yourself what you give out. So if you are a person that is quite negative energy focused, then chances are you'll draw a lot more of that towards you. If you're an individual who's by and large positive focused, then you'll draw good stuff to you. So that's my view. That's a philosophical view, I suppose.
Great. Stephen, my next question is the most exciting question of this show. And that is, if you had all the time, if you had all the energy in this world, if you had all the money in this world, if you had everything to do anything to keep yourself healthy, what would you do?
I really like this question. This question really resonates with me for a number of reasons. So let's deal with in certain orders. So there is this illusion that money makes you happy. And if you're very poor, you're living on the streets, or you've just been made homeless, or you've had a death in the family, or whatever, then I could understand that that money you potentially see as the route to your happiness. The reality is that yes, money is good, but it actually doesn't improve your choices. If you're a negative person, all it will do is shine a light on your negativity. If you're a positive person, it will shine an even brighter light on how positive you are as an individual. But so money, we all strive for it because we all want better things, not just for ourselves, but for our families. So if I had all the money in the world, the first thing I would do is have a look at how much is enough. How much do I need? How much do I want? There's only so many cars, houses, and clothes and things that you can buy. And I've got a lot of people in my circle who have got a lot of money, and some of them are happy, and some of them have gone through divorces and breakdowns and family breakdowns. So money can actually be the opposite in terms of your happiness. In terms of your energy, I certainly believe that how you feel about yourself can create an awful lot of energy, and energy is different from fitness. And the energy that you give out, as I mentioned before, is typically the energy that you, by and large, tend to receive. So if I focus on being more positive than negative, I'm going to feel a lot more energy. As a result of that energy, I do believe that I can then focus on generating more income, more ways to create revenues. I think the third bit for me is probably the most important question for all of us, which is the question about time. No amount of energy and no amount of time is, no amount of money is going to give you more time. We're all here for a finite amount of space. And the one thing um, that you should treasure and prize over anything else is in fact the time that you have available to you. What do you do at that time? We've all got 24 hours in a day. We've all got 365 days a year. Some of us might start the race, i.e. from when you're born, further ahead than others. But the reality is I came from, in the UK that is, what's classed as a very poor working class background. We didn't have a great deal of cash. In fact, I went to school many days in the UK with what some people in certain parts of the world would call a luxury, but I had to wear shoes with significant holes in the bottom of those shoes. I had to wear hand-me-down clothes, and so on and so on. So we all, we all have a story. We all have a backstory, but it's what you do with that time. And I chose to invest to understand how I could utilize that time better by investing in myself. I learned what I needed to learn. I focused on my innate skills, i.e., what do you appear to be naturally good at? That's why some people are fantastic at cricket and others like me are not very good at it. Some people are great at maths, other people aren't. So you focus on your innate skills, and that will allow you to enjoy and get more pleasure out of the time that you've got. On a personal note, in the West, we by and large have a meat-based diet. And what I've learned just recently through a little bit more education is that if I want to extend the time that I've got on the planet and enjoy that time, enjoy that affluence that I've built up, and enjoy my family, then I need to try and buy myself a little bit more time. And the only way you can do that is to adjust your lifestyle. So my youngest daughter introduced me some time ago to a plant-based diet, and I know that in certain parts of the world, a plant-based diet is there simply out of necessity rather than out of choice. If there isn't a great deal of access to meat and it's mainly plants that you've got access to, then you've got no choice but to go for a plant-based diet. But all the research would suggest that that actually does a lot of things for you. And I'm not here to sort of preach about what a plant-based diet is or isn't. I've been educated more so by my daughter than anybody else. But what I can see and what all the evidence suggests is that modern medicine just doesn't work in comparison to a plant-based diet. So I've learned quite a lot about that. You can reverse some of the issues that are going on in the West. Diabetes, you can very quickly reverse some of that. Heart problems, you can reverse some of that. You can certainly reduce the level of cancers that are occurring because a meat-based diet tends to stimulate a lot more of the cancerous cells than the plant-based diet does. So the reason I'm mentioning this is it comes back to the time question. The money doesn't solve everything, but of course it's great. It increases your choices. Doesn't mean that you make better choices than you would have done before. Just allows you to make more good ones or more bad ones. The energy that you have comes from what you actually give out. So if you're giving out positive energy more often than negative energy, you're going to get that back. And time is down to you. That's down to one person, you, the individual. And the only way that you can grasp and get more time is by making sure that you remain as fit and healthy as you possibly can be, given your own personal circumstances, but also to value it. And the older you get, the more you'll realise that that time is probably the biggest commodity that you have. So I hope that makes some
Great.
kind of sense.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Stephen. My last question to you is about this. You've worked with numerous companies and your portfolio is so diverse. Tell us exactly what you do and why do you think it's a potential game changer?
So if you think about the point I made before, which is what are your innate skills? We're all good at something and we don't particularly understand why we're good at something, but from a very early age, we recognise that we're great at one particular sport, or we're great at certain maths, or we're very creative. Whatever that field is where your innate skills sit, that's really where you tend to sort of move towards. Of course, as you go through the school curriculum, the school curriculum is designed to give you a balance across all of those skill bases, so design, maths, and so on and so on. But you will know, and as your listeners and your viewers will know, that by and large there are many of those subjects that you lean into more than you do others, and so I sort of fairly quickly, when I was younger, recognised that I was very much a creative yet data numbers driven individual. I only worked that out sort of years later. It wasn't something I thought about too much at the time, but that's sort of where I leaned into. So I tended to work in businesses where I could do stuff like that. And then I very quickly realised that I'd uncovered another innate skill that I didn't realise I had, was that I was actually quite a commercial guy. I had a bit more of a nose, let's say, for trading opportunities than others. You asked the question that I've worked with various businesses in various sectors, and that is true. I've worked in multi-channel retail for some very large global companies. I've actually created and sold a number of my own, but I've also built and sold three technology businesses that have actually serviced that multi-channel retail sector, and I'm currently working on something at the moment that will probably be the biggest game changer in the media space, and that is something that I find quite exciting. Everybody else I speak to finds that quite exciting, and we will be launching that particular platform and product next week, early September, and that will be a global proposition. So, to answer your question about the portfolio of companies, the way that I would look at it, rather than try and overthink it, is if you're a racing car driver, if you're a cricket player who wants to become best at what they do, you don't all start at the top part of the league. You have to sort of earn the knowledge that you have gained, and in order to do that, if you stay in one company, as is what used to happen in the West, for 30, maybe 40 years, then your experience of other businesses is very narrow, your experience of life is very narrow, and you as an individual tend not to grow too much. Today's economy allows people to grow in a way that works for them, and movement between jobs is one thing. Very few people tend to move outside of their knowledge zone. So, for instance, it's highly unlikely that as a multi-channel retail brand growth transformation guy, I'm going to become a brain surgeon in the next 6 months. It just won't happen. So we tend to lean into the things that we know that we can add value to. But in order to do that, you've got to move through life's journey, which means that you'll work in different organisations. I've worked in the UK, I've worked in Australia, I've worked in the US, and a few other countries, South Africa, for example, all with businesses that tend to focus on the consumer, and regardless of the sector. So I built the second largest ladies shapewear brand in the US. not knowing anything about shapewear other than what the ladies and people tell me, primarily because of my skills that I'd grown and developed over the years of working in other companies. So growth and transformation really gets me out of bed. That's the thing that gives me the buzz. Companies that have got problems, can I go in and help them to solve them and to grow their business? And in order to do that, there's elements of what we have to do as part of that process that means that for them to transform, they leverage what they've already got. So you leverage your innate skills, your innate abilities, you leverage your resources, people, physical assets, and then you see how you can use that to grow other opportunities elsewhere. And as a result of that, I took the example being the US-based shapewear business that was selling ladies' tights and stockings to compete with the biggest shapewear brand in the US. So growth and transformation based on a strategy that I call leverage and build, tied into a formula and a process that I know works. And I'm constantly learning. I learn every day something new. And what I learn that helps me and my clients and other people that work with me is one thing. And that one thing is I obsess about behavior. I obsess about consumer behavior in particular. Because what I'm looking to see, as I saw back in 94, 95, when the internet arrived in the West, was that the potential for people to change their behavior to go shopping online was going to be a significant move. I see the same thing today with social media. And social media today has got at least 60% of the world's population is on one social media channel or another. Now that's a sizable audience and that's a sizable change in behavior that nobody should be ignoring. And if you're in a business, whether it's B2B or B2C, and you want to access those audiences, you need to be able to understand how to engage with them on social media. And that means not trying to sell to them straight away. If a street vendor comes up to you when you're walking down a street and starts pushing things in front of you, chances are you're not going to be interested in buying. By the time you've got to the end of the street and 10 people have tried to do that, it's actually quite irritating. Well, the same thing applies in the social space. What social media allows us to do is it allows us to share what we know. So share your knowledge, share your information, and then we'll all grow. And by definition, you'll draw the right people to you that either have self-qualified their interest in working with you or have actually made a point that they don't want to work with you, in which case that saves you also one of the things we were talking about before, which is an awful lot of time. The third thing in the social media space is because there's over 60% of the world's population on that platform. Here's another stat: 67% of those of the world's population have got a mobile phone, so they're carrying around one of these things, and that is again huge change in behaviour. So focusing on how people utilise those mediums allows you to better understand how best to interact, engage, and grow yourself and your business. And I constantly get invites on LinkedIn from around the world. India and Pakistan are also the places, and some of them are fantastic invites from people that really do want to just learn and to grow. And the feeling is mutual, but there's an awful lot of people that want to invite, connect, and within seconds send me some kind of promotional conversation about how wonderful they are at website design, mobile design. I can do logos, I can do so on. That's the equivalent of the street seller trying to stop you walking down the street. It doesn't work. People should stop doing it. But social media and then the ability for us to really light the fire under social commerce will allow people around the globe to suddenly get in front of a global audience that would potentially be interested in whatever their products or services are. So, to summarize your question, my portfolio is diverse, but the underlying skill base that moves in that portfolio is very much the same, albeit I continue to add and grow to it by educating, learning, and listening to other people and interacting with other people. Social media, I think, is probably the biggest game changer for everybody, for that street seller through to the very large corporates, but everybody needs to learn how to utilize it in the right way. And then if you throw into the mix on social media the ability for people to purchase directly from your social media page, again, is the next wave of innovation. So the internet arrived, you had to create a website. You created a website which very much looked like a brochure from what you were doing offline. Very quickly, people understood that you could create that website as an e-commerce website. The e-commerce and the website are now moving on. They've evolved into the social media space. So my recommendation for anybody that's out there that's watching this or reading this is start to educate yourself about a space where actually even you, who probably don't have a lot of money, but have some skills, have some things that you can do, and really start to understand how to behave and how to operate in the social media space. And chances are, if you go about that the right way, you'll help yourself, you'll help your family, you'll help your friends, you'll get a lot more time, you'll get a lot more energy, and you'll get a lot more money.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen Sumner, for being here, for spending your time here with me. We talked about some very deep and important stuff, and I'm so happy that we had this conversation.
Dr. Assad, that was really, really good. Thank you for inviting me, and best of luck to all of your viewers. I look forward to connecting with people on LinkedIn. But if you're going to connect, please don't try and sell to me straight away. Let me get to
Exactly.
know you first.